David, we are back.
It feels like it's been forever. I'll tell you what. I don't know if it's...
Well, it may feel like forever, but the time is now to talk about the Hornets because they are a week away from training camp. I can't wait to dive into that because, David, it's that time of the year where I'm thirsty for basketball. Football's not doing it for me. I'm trying the football, but the football does not do it for me.
You got your football hat on.
I know. I'm trying. I mean, the Panthers are 2-0 now, so they're at least giving me reasons.
Talk of the town.
To hope, but it's not doing it for me. I'm thirsty. I'm going down rabbit holes. I want to show you this. I don't know if you go down these NBA rabbit holes. I need to stay off of NBA Reddit because
don't do that.
I get into these rabbit holes. I want to show you where I am in my kind of basketball thirst. Here's my tab list right now. Let's pull this up. Get rid of this. Go to this. So right now I have the 1995 NBA draft. Why do I have the 1995 NBA draft? Because I went down a big country rabbit hole. I needed to see where Bryant Reeves went, number 6 to Vancouver. I have this video of Shaq versus Big Country that I've been just watching on repeat. The Big Aristotle versus Big Country. And then I saw that Joe Smith was number 1 overall.
Yeah.
Kind of a long NBA career, but certainly a bust. So I have Joe Smith's basketball.
Certainly a bust. So you're saying Joe Smith was a bust. I mean, coming out of college, he was the man. So I guess you're throwing bust around kind of loosey goosey.
I said I don't know about calling him a bust because he had a long NBA career.
Oh, okay.
But certainly did not
certainly
live
a
up.
Bust.
Did I say certainly a bust?
I think he said 100% bust.
Okay.
No shots.
Okay, maybe that's what I said, but that's not what I meant.
Okay.
Certainly a disappointment, I think, is what I meant to say as a number 1 overall selection. You expect the number 1 overall picks to do a little bit more than Joe Smith did. That's all I'm saying. I'm not discrediting Joe Smith. I don't know why you're trying to put that on me right now.
Well, I was going to go with Big Country's the reason the Grizzlies aren't in Vancouver anymore. So not him alone, but certainly didn't help.
Well, I mean, it could not lift Vancouver out of its perpetual terribleness. And just he was a disappointment, unfortunately.
But that was the Vince Carter draft, right? So that was the Vince Antoine Jameson draft. So you had one candidate team they took Antoine Jameson, traded him for Vince Carter, but the fortunes of those two teams, talk about opposite directions there.
I don't think that. So maybe that was 96 because this was the.
Okay, maybe it was the next year.
This was the Carolina back-to-back Stackhouse Wallace.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So 2 more years.
And then Kevin Garnett, 5 to Minnesota. I mean, it was a stacked upper portion of the draft. You had McDyess, Stackhouse, Wallace, Garnett, Reeves, and then Stoudemire. And then it drops off pretty precipitously until you get to, this is the interesting kind of Hornets bit. They took George Zedek, 22. 21, they barely missed out on Michael Finley. That's really other than Greg Ostertag's, really the only, and Theo Ratliff, who was the perpetual trade chip, only real names of note. I mean, Kurt Thomas had a long career. Ed O'Bannon, almost single-handedly revolutionized college sports now.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough about the 1995 NBA draft. This is not a serious Hornets podcast, and we've got a lot to talk about. I want to go through the biggest questions for some of the biggest names on this Hornets roster. I want to get some parental advice from David Walker as the time is ticking down on our newborn to arrive, and so I want to get some last-minute dad advice from and parenting advice from David. So I'm just going to lightning round him, and then we'll catch you up on everything that's kind of happened around these past couple of weeks, but also really more importantly, what's going to happen next week, which is the opening of training camp and then into preseason. But first, I want to say that this podcast is supported by the listeners. We don't do ads on this show. We're just supported by the listeners. And the way you can do that is by going to patreon.com/Hornets pod. And I got to shout out 2 people who did that this week. Thank you to Steven, who I think has been around before. So I don't know that we're welcoming Steven for the first time, but we're welcoming him back. And that's we're fine with that. We love when people come back
to the fold.
That's right. He is a $3 patron, and then Caleb is coming in at $5. And we don't discriminate. However you want to support, buy us a cup of coffee a month, dollar a month. We're thrilled with that. We're thrilled that you're supporting this show. It helps pay for the subscriptions, like this thing that we use to put ourselves on YouTube, and all of the various equipment that it takes to make this show. We thank you for your support. So with that, David, how are you? I don't want to just like discount before we get into this Hornets talk how you are personally. How are you?
I'm good. I'm better. I was a little under the weather last week, as I told you, but I'm getting there. I know you are you are absolutely parched for NBA content. I'm getting there. I haven't jumped back into like daily NBA radio talk yet. I haven't checked out the training camp schedule yet. I haven't quite gotten there yet. But I'm close. I mean, by the time preseason rolls around, I'll be fully in gear.
I think it's fair to say, David, that this is the most excited I've ever been for a Hornets training camp in recent memory.
Certainly recent, yeah.
Because not only do you have LaMelo Ball, one of the most exciting young players in the NBA, seems poised for some kind of level of NBA greatness, at least a star level of NBA greatness, seems poised for that. You have some veterans that are healthy in Gordon Hayward. Everyone seems healthy-ish. You've got young players like Miles Bridges, who is coming off a career year. Terry Rozier coming off of a career year. You've got some new faces. Kelly Oubre, who seems poised to commit to helping the depth of this team. And then you've got like rookies that are genuinely exciting to watch. Book Night. Kai Jones. I mean, these are players with high athleticism and just like eye-popping ability on the floor. It's exciting.
Yeah. I mean, you're adding to the most exciting team we've had in recent memory, right? We were just talking before, I guess we launched live, another year of struggles for watching them on TV. But yeah, the most exciting back-to-back seasons potentially we've had in a long, long time, because they added to that, right? I mean, that's what we said around the draft time, and as they were constructing this roster to kind of build around LaMelo and make a push, they keep adding guys that could be exciting. There's no George Zedix. There's no big countries. There's guys, that can get out and run and fill the lanes and play with this current group. So I think that's like, they're moving all in the same direction, right? There's focus. Right. They know what they're doing from the top down. Not something we've always seen in the past. So yeah, a lot of reason to be excited.
That's right. Everything seems to be aligned. Everyone seems committed. I can share this article here from at the Hive. This is exciting me more than anything right now. Look at this. Hornets come together for full squad workout in Miami. This happened a couple of weeks ago. I think this is the second time that Terry Rozier has gathered up some young players. This second one seemed to involve everyone on the roster, including JT Thor, who sort of, looks scared in this picture. He just looked maybe out of breath.
Well, Miami's a hot zone, so yeah.
But if you, David, if you had any questions, and I don't think many Hornets fans did have a lot of questions about the contract that the Hornets gave out to Terry Rozier, but if you had any questions about that, aren't they all answered by what you're seeing right here? By him having the clout and the leadership of this team to get everyone down to Miami for an off-season workout that is anything but mandatory.
What's the Miami connection? Just, I know it's a fun place to be, but do we have a Miami?
I would say probably the trainer. I'm not certain about this, but Anthony Wells is the is Terry's player development coach, it
Okay.
would seem, and maybe the location of his training facility is in Miami. That's
Okay.
what I would guess.
Well, I mean, just yesterday I was seeing headlines that LeBron James organized offseason workouts, and it's all the rage now because they did the same thing before they won the title last time. So that's a great sign for the Lakers. But just to point that out, that's the type of leadership you're looking for. We didn't hear the same clamor around Terry Rozier doing it. Obviously, he's not LeBron; they're not the Lakers. But to your point, yeah, I mean, that's the kind of veteran leadership you want from, the guy who was, he was the man on this team last year. He led them all year, and when people kept going,
he
down,
earned that clout. Oh,
Yeah,
that's not something that he earned elsewhere and then brought with him. He came and said, "This is what I'm going to do," and then did it. And all of the players on this team, I think, highly respect. You don't go down to Miami and do an offseason workout that you don't have to do unless you genuinely respect the guy who's asking you to come down there and do it.
Right.
And I think it says two things. One, what we've already talked about with Terry Rozier, but also that everyone showed up. There have been, I'm not going to bring up names of players in the past, but there have been players in the past that are no longer with this team that it just seemed they weren't entirely committed to the offseason process. Okay? And that doesn't seem to be a problem with this current iteration of the Hornets, and that excites me.
I think you may be talking about someone who may have gotten an invite to that LeBron James workout. I've just
did he go?
I don't know.
I mean, I don't know who you're talking about, but did he go?
Did he? Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, like I saw a bunch of those videos on Instagram, what have you. I think they were from that trainer, so that's a good call out there. But I mean, Gordon Hayward, like he's married with kids now. Now you'll soon learn that could be more impetus to go to Miami to play basketball with your friends. But like he's here in the off season.
Vicky, what you think he went to his wife and said, "Listen, Terry's asking me. You saw what Terry did last season. I can't say no to that."
I think she knows. I think she's aware. She's a fan too. She's not just a family member. But
that'd be great if she watched the games and she's like, "No, I'm not arguing with you, honey. Terry was a beast last season, and you have to go down there.
You need to go down there and just get whatever he's got." Yeah, no, I think that's great. And the other thing is such a short off season, right? I mean, last season just ended, so it's clear that these guys want to keep that momentum going. It's not something they had last year. They were kept out of the bubble, right? They didn't get to have that lengthened time together, so maybe that will give them a little boost heading into training camp too.
What I'm telling you, dear Hornets fan that is watching this YouTube video or listening to this podcast, is that it appears that the team as an organization and the players on the team are doing everything within their power to have a great season. And that should give you a lot of heart. It does not guarantee regular season success. It does not guarantee any kind of playoff success because there are a lot of factors that are out of their control. But you have to be excited by the fact that this entire team is gathering around and saying, hey, maybe it's time to be great. Maybe it's time to actually bring some success. We've had some wins. We've had some just sort of organizational wins. Now it's time to actually put some wins on the board and have a winning season, something that Borrego has not experienced in his 3 years in Charlotte. It's time for a winning season. And I think this is my last thing my last question to you, David, before we get into the biggest questions around some of these players. My biggest question for you is it winning season or bust this year? I mean, pending massive injuries that affect, major players on this roster, if LaMelo misses significant time and Gordon misses significant time, barring that, is this winning record or bust kind of season?
Well, they just gave Borrego that extension, but as we talked about, that's only as good as the paper it's written on. If they don't perform up to that, if they're not in the playoffs, they're not in the playoff discussion. If the season gets out to a ungodly bumpy start or something like that, you're definitely going to hear rumblings. But I mean, I do think that gives him a little bit of confidence still with the front office that they're all moving in the same direction. But it can't go catastrophic. It can't be a total bust. So they've got to be making their way. They've got to be in the playoff.
Certainly a bust. It can't certainly be a bust.
Certainly be a bust like Joe Smith.
Sorry, Joe.
So no, not to the level of like it's top 4 or bust, but they've got to be making that headway because that's what they believe in. That's what they saw last year. That's what they keep harping on about last year when they were fully healthy, right before Hayward went down, right before the injuries hit them. They were top 4, right? That's what they keep. That's what they're hanging their hat on to say that we can get all these guys back, be healthy, and get a jump out of some other people. So there's definitely pressure, and I think a lot of it is on JB because I don't think LaMelo is going to get that quite yet.
I'm gonna say it. I'm just gonna put it down right now. To me, it's winning record or bust. I think it's time for James Borrego. 4th year, you've got all the tools. Again, barring any massive set of injuries. I'm not talking about one. I'm not talking about Gordon Hayward missing significant time. I'm talking about multiple players missing significant time. Barring that, I think this team has to have a winning record. And I don't know what that means seeding-wise, but the East doesn't come off to me. This is not a particularly strong time for the Eastern Conference. I know that we've talked about some scheduling quirks that may work against some of what they want to do, but I don't think it's time for excuses. I think it's time for a winning record. So I'm just going to put that out there right now. I think that should be the expectation to end this season. So David, let's talk about some biggest questions heading into camp, which starts next week, by the way. Monday is media day, so we'll get to hear from all the players. And then, so we'll probably go live again on Tuesday off that, or maybe Wednesday off of the first day of camp. But let's start with LaMelo Ball. It's a player we got to start with because the fortunes of the Charlotte Hornets begin and end with that player. LaMelo Ball, what's your biggest question about him heading into camp?
Well, about his overall game, I wonder how much he can transform into the go-to guy on offense, right? I still think he's going to be the facilitator, obviously. He's going to be looking to be getting other people involved. But when you're talking about the face of a franchise guy, you want to see – God, I can't believe I've really gone into cliche. When you talk about a guy, Doug,
those two right there.
You know what the other one, just real quick, the other thing I've noticed that's really annoying me with announcers lately, other than just like I'm way off of national announcers. I want home team announcers always. Now, kudos to the NBA for doing that. But when they say so you would be calling a game and you see like, all right, so Doug's going out here and he's going to run this offense. But you know what? Then he says, like, you hear that a lot when they're like,
who's the biggest?
It's the worst. I mean, every NFL guy does it now. That's where I think I'm picking up a lot of it.
You know, kind of who is the worst offender in my mind, and this doesn't bug me as much, and maybe my bias and love for this person it sort of cushions that. But the worst offender of what you're talking about is Del Curry. I mean, he does that all the time. He said,
"You know what I'm talking about, right?"
This guy right here says, "I'm not going to let you win." Yeah. I mean, I get what you're saying, and Del Curry. Yes. And again, it doesn't bug me, and I don't know why. Again, I just love Dell that much. But I
don't know where that came from. It's everywhere now. I don't know. It's just odd. You know where it's not though? It's not on Peyton and Eli when they do the calls on Monday Night Football. I don't know if you heard about that.
Does Gronk do that?
Oh man, Gronk was great. The other night they just asked him a question. He was like, "It was awesome." That's pretty much a direct quote. But anyway, jumping back to LaMelo, that's what I want to see from him. Is there another level to his offensive game where he's taking over? I always think back to the Phoenix game out there, beginning of the season, where he did take over down the stretch a little bit, got to the rim, and made some shots from the perimeter as well. But that is the next level for his game that I want to see. I mean, I'm assuming that physically he's going to get stronger and that stuff's going to come as well. But that's the next level to his game that I want to see when you talk about him getting into like all-star conversations and things like that.
Yeah, that game, he had 20 points on 7 of 11 shooting, but it wasn't the 20 points. It was the fact that he scored 16 of his 20 in the second half, and he had the sort of clutch play after clutch play that got them the win on the road in Phoenix against, a really tough Phoenix team. Yeah, pretty damn good. So I totally agree. I think that's a big question for me. Will he avoid the sophomore slump, or is he ready to be the number one option? Because I think, David, you look at his stats and you dive into some of the deeper analytics, and they tell you that as a playmaker, as a passer, as a decision maker for facilitating others, he is way ahead of where he should have been as a rookie. But as a shot creator for himself, pull-up jumper wasn't that efficient. Off the dribble wasn't that efficient. Now, a catch and shoot, when others were facilitating to him, and Terry Rozier had a big part in this, and so did Devontae Graham, getting him opportunities for catch and shoot, he was bang, bang. And that's what surprised us about his three-point shooting. But in terms of pulling up off the dribble, there was some weird decision-making at times, and then he wasn't able to do that, to make that shot as efficiently as you would expect, maybe as efficiently as you would expect a rookie, but not as efficiently as you would expect someone who is on sort of the star trajectory. So and I'm sure he is looking into all of those analytics as well and trying to improve that. But I don't know that you can become a superstar in this league without a superstar ability to create your own jump shot.
Yeah.
And so that's definitely what I'll be looking for this season. And then one more. I know we're kind of trying to get to one question here, but I have this one too. Like, is the wrist okay?
You see him messing with it, right?
So I'm messing with it. What does that mean? I'm scared.
That's going to be a question until it's not a question. And if he keeps fidgeting with it all year and nothing comes of it, then that's great. But yeah, I mean, you have to wonder just because of how you left it last season. But you haven't heard anything about it, so far. We'll see how training camp goes.
Not heard a single word, but we're coming up on media day, and I'm certain. By the way, props to Rod Boone, who's your new beat writer for the Charlotte Observer. I'm sure old Boonie's going to get in there and make sure to ask a question about the wrist.
Oh,
hey, if you're watching live right now, by the way, let us know your biggest questions about each of these players. You can skip ahead any questions you have. We're just asking questions right now. I don't know. We don't really have any answers, unfortunately, because we're not quite there yet. But we're just asking questions and having conversations. So let's move on to Terry Rozier. Your biggest question heading into camp for Terry.
Was the fade off at the end of last year due to just that exhaustion, due to having to carry so much of the team with the other guys falling out a little bit, Walker and Nada have, hit on what he did at the end of last year, a little bit of a fade towards the tail end of the season there. I'm a believer that he was just having to do so much throughout the course of the season that it wore him down. So one, can he build up that stamina? It looks like he's trying to, at least in the offseason. But two, can he replicate the high points, right? Can he prove that last year was not some sort of fluke coming out of Boston, that he can be the guy? You've seen some of the rankings that have come out preseason, just overall players. The guys have talked about that this week. A little bit of disrespect, I think, in Terry's rankings on some of those guys that are ahead of him. Is certainly shocking to someone who watched the Hornets a lot last year. But I think that's the question for me. Can Terry keep it going? Can he remain the guy? Can he and LaMelo be the full-time backcourt duo and capitalize on some of the good things they did last year? So I think Terry's certainly, from a leadership standpoint, you talked about the stuff in Miami, he's trying to show that he can be one of the main voices on the team and lead them to somewhere they hadn't been in a while. And I think that's the biggest question. Can he just keep that going? Can he do that again? Can he make that the norm? Can he, is that who he is now?
Yeah. So that's my similar question. Does the shooting streak that he was on early in last season, does that replicate itself into next season? And do we see any fall off post contract? And I don't, just sort of somewhat from an outsider's perspective, understanding what Terry says he's about, it would seem like he wouldn't be the kind of player to cash a check and then sit back and he's organizing off-season workouts. We've already talked about that. So here's illustrating what you were talking about and what Walker has pointed out on Locked On Hornets. This is a trend line from Cleaning the Glass for Terry Rozier's three-point percentage. You can see in the first half of the season was above his season average and way above the positional average, and it only got better. And then there was a significant fall off around the middle of the season, and it sort of stayed below positional average for the remainder of the year. And I think you bring up the great point, stamina. He had to carry so much of this team's offense without Gordon Hayward. So, and as Miles was figuring out how to be more of an offensive threat as the year went on. And so I think the question that I have is, you bring in Kelly Oubre, you bring in Book Knight, you've got Miles, who I think the big question for him, I'll get to it in a minute, is about what is his role now that everyone's healthy, but can he be a bigger part of the offense? So does all of that combined to mean that Terry can be more effective for more of the season, and you don't see this? He kind of went from scary Terry right here to like Gary Terry. I mean, it was just sort of normal Terry, like Gary. Like anyone named, Gary. I mean, if you're named Gary, I apologize, but it's a normal name. And so he just fell back to Gary Terry from Scary Terry. And, I think it's a great question. Okay, so let's get this off the screen and let's get us back on the screen. And then let's talk about I want to move to James Book Knight now. Rookie out of UConn. We know this about Book Knight. He had to carry a lot of the offense, it all was on Book Knight when he played for UConn. Now he steps into he's going from essentially, like when we went from high school, when we were the talk of the town, to college, and all of a sudden we're in a sea of people we don't know from high schools across the country. It's a whole new world for James Book Knight. What is your biggest question about the rookie as he heads into his first campaign?
Can he be the better version of Malik Monk? I mean, I think that's what I was looking for when they drafted him, to kind of fill that role. I think ultimately he can be more of a facilitator, even though Monk, had some bright spots in that area that maybe were unexpected when he came in. I think Book Knight, I don't think he's going to be asked to do that from the jump. Maybe as much, but he did handle a lot of that in college. But can he provide the extra scoring punch? Because whatever you think about the transactions that happened, losing Devontae Graham and losing Monk, those were two guys that they did kind of have in their stable as firepower they could bring off the bench. So is Book Knight going to be able to fill that gap in and be able to provide scoring off the bench, so that there's not a huge drop off when either Terry or LaMelo or even a scoring guy like Hayward is not out there? Can he be someone they can count on early on? That's a lot for a rookie, but I think that's the question. Can he replace Malik Monk and give them a little bit more ultimately?
Yeah, my question is, as the season moves on, will he create looks for himself or be created for? Because I saw him in Summer League at times struggle to create his own looks. And you saw him he got locked down by Davion Mitchell when they played the Kings, and that sort of one-on-one ability that he showed off at UConn is suddenly going to stop being effective, either because of the players he's playing against, but also because of the role that the Hornets put him in off the bench. How significant of a threat will he be off the bench? I think that's a big question for James Book Knight, and what happens if there's an injury and he has to step in and play an even bigger role. I think those are all. I think it would be better for Book Knight if he gets that year to come off the bench and be in that facilitated 4 role, and not suddenly be forced into something where he has to create looks for himself, because I'm not sure that that's where he is right now in his game. Also, how did we miss this, David? And maybe somebody, I feel like in the back of my mind, somewhere deep, someone had mentioned this to me on a chat, on one of these chats, or in the comments section. But after Book Knight struggled in the second game of Las Vegas Summer League, he got a call, David. He got a call on a cellular telephone from a certain NBA player who is also the owner of the franchise, one Michael Jordan. How did we miss this, Dave?
This was, I don't know. I feel like that should have been alerted to us. What was the context of this conversation?
He just wanted to know what's up.
Okay.
How you doing, Book?
Yeah.
No, so this is from Rookie Wire. Cody Taylor writing this up. Apparently, I'll just read you what Book Knight said. Got the call from Jordan. Quote, he basically critiqued my game, told me what he saw.
Sure.
Not many 20-year-olds fresh in the league can say that the best player to ever touch a basketball is calling them to give them pointers. I took that to heart, and here's the best part, David. He said, quote, "And I took it personal."
No, he didn't. Did he really say that?
She said.
I love this guy already. I mean,
You gotta love it.
come on. That's just, how did we miss that with that? No one calling that out. No one's dropping that.
It's such a great quote. Well, I think it says a lot about I think it says two things. Like, people care less about making fun of Michael Jordan as an owner, and they care. And I think he's bought himself some capital with some of the good things that the Hornets have done. And LaMelo Ball buys Michael Jordan some organizational capital.
Yeah, that's great, Book Night.
I love that too. I wonder if, like, MJ has learned about how to talk to players, especially rookies, because it brings to mind for me when he totally
broke.
He totally decimated Kwame Brown.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
It seems like Book Night has a little bit more constitution, but I wonder if MJ has learned a little bit. Like, I'm still going to call and critique this person who plays my position. Like, they play the same position, but maybe doing it in a way that's a little bit more helpful and a little less soul crushing.
Well, look what Tony Kukoc said when he was recently inducted into the Hall of Fame, and MJ was sitting right there on stage with him. He inducted him in, which, again, is your annual reminder that when you induct someone into the Hall of Fame, you don't do anything. You just sit on the stage. But
you stand up and very loudly say, "I induct you.
I declare induction."
That's what I would do. If I induct David, if I ever induct you someday into any Hall of Fame, I promise you on this day that I will stand up and say, "I induct you."
I appreciate that. I look forward to it too. But you think about all the stories about MJ and Pippen and being hard on players in Chicago, and Kukoc is one of those guys, and he obviously took that to heart. Now, two different players, two different eras, two different teams, all that stuff's different. But to your point, I think, MJ certainly learned from some of the mistakes, I guess, and Kwame Brown brought Kwame Brown back here, right? They had a little mini reunion in Charlotte. So I would hope that MJ at this point is, giving structured advice, as I'm sure he is, and I'm sure he needs my advice on how to give that advice.
Well, and I would speculate, I don't have any information, but I would speculate that there were probably, we saw one famous moment where he interacted with Malik Monk, smacking him on the back of the head after he was, being silly. And I suspect there were calls to Malik Monk. Malik Monk wasn't very vocal, to reporters or telling stories like this. So I can't imagine that there weren't calls to Malik Monk from Michael Jordan. If you're worried about this in any way, shape, or form, Book Night would go on to say that he was happy that MJ called him. He's happy to have that type of relationship. This is the quote: "I'm happy to have that type of relationship where we can get on the phone and talk about what he saw, how I felt, what I saw, and apply that to the next game."
Pretty cool. Not many teams have that. One other thing, just on Malik Monk, because I feel like we're bagging on him this episode a lot. But one of the things I'm looking forward to this season is just some of the reactions from LeBron James, Russell Westbrook, some of the guys, the vets on the Lakers, just to see. I'm fascinated to know, honestly, what's going to happen with Monk out there, and just curiosity.
Well, he's fighting. Look, he's like he's very similar, and I said this a lot when I was on Locked On Hornets. To me, the situation is very similar to Jeremy Lamb, where he just needed to go somewhere else. It doesn't guarantee that he's going to, scenery change his entire self and become a better player, but he would get that opportunity. Now he has that opportunity. Jeremy Lamb took that opportunity in Charlotte, turned his career around, and turned it into a contract with the Pacers. Can Malik Monk do the same? We'll have to see. And that's my biggest question about Malik Monk heading into training camp.
Who no longer plays for the Hornets.
Let's go to Gordon Hayward. It seems kind of obvious what the biggest question is, right? Can he stay healthy?
Yeah, that's it. Because mentioned it earlier, they were fourth in the East when he was healthy. Hornets are really hanging their hat on that fact. And it was just better basketball. I mean, that was something we hadn't seen, to have a guy like that you could literally throw it to whenever he was on the court, on his side of the court, create for himself, and was another guy that could get people involved and create for others, right? So when you mention LaMelo Ball and Terry and Hayward. Like, they liked having multiple guys out there that could create for themselves. And I think Hayward just has to stay healthy. I mean, that's the same. That's it. That's all there is.
Yeah, why you're asking, like, why were the Hornets 4th overall in the East when Gordon Hayward was healthy? And it's because Hayward gives you positional versatility on the defensive end. He gives you an element of an offensive versatility that you don't really have with anyone else, which is I can back someone down and get a 2-point shot when nothing else is happening, when the set breaks down. And then also, you just don't have to deal with any of the depth issues at his position. So it gives you, and it will give them a lot more options to play with on the big rotation, because you can get Miles Bridges in there, you can get PJ Washington, and you don't have to slot down at that point. So yeah, but last 4 seasons he's missed 20 or more games 3 times. So the Hornets are hoping that that trend turns around, and they really need it to, honestly, if they want to get exceed expectations and meet the goals that they have for themselves as a team. They really need him to stay healthy. So Miles Bridges, question, what's your biggest question about Miles Bridges heading into camp?
Kind of in conjunction with that, I just wonder how much they are conscious of giving Gordon some breaks or finding, so he's not, I don't know what you can do though. It's not like he's breaking down. It's not like he's repeatedly having the same issue. He's just having bad luck with injuries. I wonder if they try and spell him at all using a guy like Miles Bridges, who really excelled when Hayward was out. Can he do that now that they've got a little bit more of a crowded roster, right? I think is the main question. A lot of these guys had a prove-it year last year. So you had Terry and you had Miles, who really burst on the scene and played well with LaMelo Ball and also without LaMelo Ball. So can he be the next guy who is a threat to break you down off the dribble and create for himself all game long, right? Can he build on that and be consistent in that effort?
Yeah, my biggest question is, how does he fit in with Gordon Hayward back? Like, what's that? There are a lot of rotational questions that I have about what the Hornets are going to do with the big rotation, and then how Miles, I think he's obviously a starter, but like, how does that all fit in with the rotation? I think big question. I'm going to throw, because I want to get to the parental guidance stuff, and I want to tell everybody what's coming up. So let's just, any other lingering questions that you have about any player?
PJ at the 5. Can that really happen? Can it be effective? Can they use him in that role? It feels like they really want to. I don't know.
My question about PJ is, will he come into camp physically and mentally prepared? I didn't feel like he was ready for camp last season, and it was a weird year, but I think it's time for him to do that in his career. And hopefully he's able to do that. The only other one that I had, I guess, Kai Jones, I just have a question about, like, does that incredible athleticism that we saw in Summer League, does that transform into smart and efficient basketball, and how much of a role does he play on this team in the rotation?
Yeah, how much Stromile Swift are we looking at? Because that's the guy that just keeps jumping out at me.
He's gonna put that. You're gonna put that weird voodoo on him? Like,
no, well, I mean, when you look at the raw video, the highlights of him, going to the basket, that's actually a compliment if you think about it. Now, if you think hard about it, think real hard about it. That's a compliment, because the athleticism was off the charts. We just didn't see it. We just didn't see it.
You have to think real hard about it.
Yeah. So, but Kai, I mean, there's no rush on Kai just yet. So I think anything he can contribute is a plus next year.
Okay, David. I am entering into the zone of this gestation of my soon-to-be child, where anything can happen. This could happen at any moment. So I thought I would take this opportunity to get any tips about, I was forthcoming with my tips about weddings and best men. So now I need you to hit me with the tips that I need to know heading into this momentous day that could happen at any point between now and the end of October.
Well, first of all, the wedding speech emceeing was a total success. It was fantastic. I know it's been a couple weeks since we let you guys know, but yeah, I think anytime you've got people coming up to you during the reception or during the after party portion and saying, good speech, it
Yep.
was great. Obviously, that's a good sign. Someone even says you could be a stand-up comedian. I was like, get out of here with that mess. Stop it. Come on, give me some more. No. Let's get a drink.
Please,
Let's talk
please
about
continue.
it. But I just did want to give one highlight. The buddy who was getting married, big Ric Flair fan. So my big memorization of the speech was memorizing Ric Flair's, jet
Styling,
plane ride and profiling. I've forgotten it now, but for that speech, I did list them all out, and I got a woo from the crowd.
Wow, crowd response. You got call and response happening.
Yeah,
I
man.
mean, especially like when people want to eat, they don't want to do anything that will extend a speech. So the fact that you got that reaction, I think, speaks to your.
I was proud.
Speaks to your moment.
Good.
Anyway, enough about you.
Anyway, yeah. So children.
Well, let's start. I mean, any tips
with, like, the day
on the
of, or
well, just like pre? Yeah, give me anything you got from your experience.
All right. Well, I'm just going to tell you this. Day of, right? Now, you may not know, but you're going to be prepared. It's one of those situations. I assume you guys, have your go bag ready, have your route to the hospital ready.
Yeah,
you know how to get there.
Okay, go bag.
Go bag. So, hospital. Don't forget to take, some extra clothes. Okay. Take a jacket, take a sweater, take a sweatshirt for you. We're talking about you now. We're talking about you. It gets,
the most important person in the room.
It can get a little chilly in there. You don't know how long you're going to be standing up. And I say standing up, Doug, because there'll be places for you to sit around the room, but you've got to dole that out. You've got to be.
Well, I feel like it's one of those, those early jobs that we all have or may have had or have, where the boss is always kind of like looking at you like, "Hey, are you sitting down right now?
You can't.
We don't sit down on this job."
No. Now get your sitting in when you're kind of,
I feel like I need to get a good stretch in. It's what you're saying. I need to get a severe stretch in.
You'll be kind of, setting things up. They'll be getting Katie situated, and there should be some time where you're both kind of all right. The doctors will be coming in, the nurses will be coming in, kind of keep you updated. You'll know when it's go time. I mean, you'll know. Just between the chemistry between you two, you know what to look for. Then it's time to get up. Okay. You can't sit down all night. Now, my second son took a good 22, 23 hours.
Oh, boy.
Okay. And there was at one point during this that the nurses looked at me and were like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, and
you were looking a little wobbly.
I was like, "I'm tired. I gotta."
Cut me, Mick.
I was like, I gotta sit down, and like you could feel the daggers from everyone in the room.
It was like, no. The correct answer was, "I'm fine." Whatever you said.
I'm pretty sure I was like, it was 20 hours in.
I'm struggling here, Doc.
Listen, yeah. No, I was like, can you have a water or something? But I mentioned the articles of clothing because it was freezing in there, and I'd asked my dad to bring me something. A sweatshirt or something. He comes back with one of his old sweaters that, was way too big for me. I didn't feel comfortable in it. It was not mine. I was like, Dad, go get something of mine. This is but it didn't work out that way. And so, I didn't want my son to come out seeing me in some ill-fitting sweater, from the 90s.
What's he going to think?
This is going to be the first impression. So I left it in the bag. I was like, I'm going to be chilly, but I'm going to be me. And that would be my big piece of advice to you. Take some articles of clothing, take your chargers, take everything. You're going for a couple, you're going for a little while.
Yeah. It's not a kind of in and out fast food experience. This is fine dining and 12-course meal. You're going to be there for a while.
And I'm assuming the movement around the hospitals is way tamped down since I was there. Given
I think you can't leave once you're in. It's a little. It's not at all like prison, but you can't leave. So that's a great tip. We're gonna leave that there, and if pending that it doesn't happen between now and next week, I'll get another tip from you. But what I'd really like, because it sounds like I'm going to be standing for a while, and that means I need some comfy shoes. So I may need you to give me like the top 3 comfy shoes out there right now that where I can show some style. Because again, I don't want a what are those from my newborn daughter.
Exactly.
That's not what you want. It's a nightmare. So I need comfy shoes that also kind of bridge the gap between comfort and style. So I'll leave that to you for next episode. Let that roll around the old mind grapes for a little while. Coming up next week, we've got Media Day on Monday. Training camp begins on Tuesday. We'll see about either going live on Tuesday or Wednesday, deciding whether to recap Media Day or recap first day of training camp. We'll see. October 4th, preseason opener at Oklahoma City. October 7th, first home preseason game versus Memphis. Actually, 2 back-to-back home games versus Memphis, starting with the October 7 game. That one's going to be broadcast. I'm not sure about that opener. October 20th, Hornets open the season versus the Indianapolis Pacers.
I'm supposed to be there. I got tickets.
Oh, you're going? Wow.
I mean, that's the plan. I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
Wear the hazmat suit bio. I don't know what their policies are on. Just stay safe out there. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, we'll see.
Thank you so much for watching, listening, whatever you're doing to take in this nonsense that we're putting out. We appreciate it. If you'd like to buy us a cup of coffee, head over to patreon.com/HornetsPod. David, you have one more thing before we leave.
Well, just want to let Tyler and everyone know, no Too Fast, Too Furious.
Oh, yeah. Here, I'll throw that up on the screen. So Tyler chatted, joined late. We heard Doug's review of 2F. Yeah, Too Fast, Too Furious. No, and the reason is I haven't watched it yet. I will rectify that. I needed that. Tyler, I needed that. I needed that prod from someone that actually, they want to hear my opinions on 2F. So I will get to it, I promise you, before I descend into fatherhood. And we'll make some room for that in the next episode. I promise. I promise you, David. I promise you, Tyler. I've made a pact with Tyler, who is a loyal chatter of the show, and we really appreciate it. Thank you so much for making this possible. Until next time, go Hornets, go America, let's swarm. Charlotte!